Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital
Got
Nomad
it.
World weekly series. I'm very excited today to bring this topic that I think a lot of people are going to get a benefit from. We're going to talk about finding a remote job through volunteering with my guest today, Linda Riss. Linda, welcome to the show.
Hi, Becky. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Linda. We met way back in 2021 in Bulgaria. It's actually, no, we met in 2019 before the pandemic,
Yes.
didn't we?
Yes,
Great
in
to have you on.
Bulgaria, exactly. So, yeah.
All right, so Linda, can you tell us first about your background and how you became a digital nomad?
Yes. So basically, I used to work at the university in the Netherlands in the field of education management. And at some point, I moved abroad to work for an NGO, to work in Nepal. And there came back to Netherlands again. And then at some point, I started traveling. And during my travels, I've done a lot of volunteering. And I came back to Nepal again. And there I started a job and started as a digital nomad. So I was volunteering first, and then I found a job as a travel agent. So I moved basically from education management to working in international development to becoming a travel agent.
I have to say, Linda, you are the first person I've met that talked to me about finding a remote job through volunteering. Was it something before you moved to Nepal? Were you thinking about working remotely? Was it ever a dream you had?
It wasn't really a dream, but my dream was always to be able to travel. And so ever since I was a young kid, I know I read a book about some young people traveling, and it was always in my mind like that's what I want to do, like be an explorer, discover different cultures, different places. So that was always in the back of my mind, and it just at some point slowly dawned on me that it could be done through remote working.
Great. Well, now you've been traveling for a while as a digital nomad. So, do you have any tips before we get into the volunteering part? Any tips you would give to a digital nomad?
Well, first of all, I think nowadays there's a lot of promotions like to become a digital nomad. So you see all these like ads saying, become a nomad, follow this course, become a virtual assistant. And I think maybe it's very attractive for people to do that, but I think it's actually better to find something that somehow already has to do with you, that you already like to do and that you want to, can somehow do online. And if you want to do something and want to gain the skills, then as I said before, like volunteering is one way to do it, to get new skills and to actually, learn something new as well.
Great. Well, I often ask people about a funny story they'd like to share during their digital nomad journey, but I'm going to switch this for you. I want to ask if you have any funny stories through all of your years of volunteering that you could share with us.
Okay. Yeah. Well, because I was thinking about one digital nomad story, but I have a lot of funny volunteering stories. I once volunteered at a resort, and they said I had to do gardening. And basically, I found out that the gardening was actually snorkeling the local reef and mapping it. So instead of the actual job of gardening that would be really heavy, I had to like snorkel around the reef and explore. And I mean, this is the type of volunteering that I would recommend to everyone, right? Like we were just, to be at this resort and just, basking in the sun of the beach and then going snorkeling. Yeah, I wouldn't really call that volunteering. I also once did a job where I had to be like a tour agent, and this was in Nepal. And then I had a group of elderly people who wanted to explore Nepal in a bus. And well, in Nepal, a lot of things go wrong. And so to say, there were just quite some elderly people who wouldn't be really able to deal with it. So there was a guy who was like forgetting things a lot. And I had to like explain to him over and over again what we were gonna do. There was a guy who had this like this bag where your pee goes into, and he was carrying that around on his while he was traveling in Nepal. I don't know the name for that. And but he thought he could like hike and he could climb and everything, but he couldn't. And so I was just being a tour agent of this group of people where I was like sometimes almost crying because it was so weird and so so funny at the same time, but it was so hard to like deal with these people. And now when I look back at it, I can really laugh about it, how I was going through this like developing country with this elderly group that was like totally not fit to do it. But yeah, these are some weird volunteering stories that I have, I guess. Yeah.
You never know. It sounds like when you volunteer, you never know what's going to happen from day to day.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Yeah. It always brings you more and something different than you expect. Yeah, totally.
So, as you've already kind of shared with us, you have spent a lot of time volunteering around the world, a lot of time in Nepal, which is actually a country we haven't talked about on the show before. So, what kind of work have you done besides what you've already mentioned? And how did you get into volunteering in general? Did you start even younger than the studies that you mentioned in the Netherlands?
Yeah, I think I started volunteering basically when I was studying, and there were a lot of like youth initiatives, and it was actually organized by from funding from the European Union, and there were like youth exchanges, and it was I just found a website for young people to be active and signed up for it. And before I knew it, I was like at a United Nations youth event, handing out condoms or something, and there was live music, and yeah, it was just so much fun, and I met so many people, also international people, that I was just from that moment on, I was just thinking about yeah volunteering as some sort of hobby and as a way to meet new people, and at the same time you're also learning a lot, of course. So from there on, I did a lot of different types of volunteering. I also volunteered while traveling. I think a lot of people know WOOF, WWOOF, Worldwide Organic Farming or something. And that's a kind of volunteering you can do as a backpacker. There's also Workaway nowadays, so I volunteered also through that. And then I also worked at an NGO for 1.5 years in Nepal, which was a type of volunteering, but you get a stipend. Then you get like a monthly basic salary. And then what was the question again? I forgot.
How you got into volunteering, which you've mentioned. And so after
Yeah,
that
okay.
year and a
So
half, and
I said that. Yeah.
yeah, after that year and a half with the NGO, I know you've spent even more time in Nepal. You stayed for a while. What did you do after the NGO?
Well, actually, I went back to the Netherlands again, and then I came again a couple of years later. And then I actually started, when I arrived, I started looking for volunteer work. And basically, I started volunteering at a local NGO that was having different projects in their area, which was a center for children with a disability, a school, a women's center, women empowerment center, and an after-school club for kids. And I started volunteering for them, and it was basically helping them with their website, writing some blogs, and also just helping with general communication. And at some point after 1-2 months, I wanted to move on at some point, but then the director of the organization came to me and said, Linda, this is so helpful. We're just having so many more visibility. There's just so many good things happening now that you're here. Can't you stay for a bit longer, and we can find some way to, to get you that you can have some sort of salary. And then we came up with a system that basically the people that would come in and would do help with all the projects, they would also want to go hiking and want to go on treks and want to explore the country. And we started kind of selling those trips and treks for these people, and I would get a commission for that. And so basically we were helping the local projects there. We were helping the organization grow and the projects also to grow. And also I had a role in this organization. I started my business in the Netherlands. I registered my business, and also opened created a Dutch website. And yeah, from then on, we just worked together a lot. And for 3 years, I worked for this organization until COVID happened. And now I also work like just for a few hours per week still for them. But it's still quite challenging right now. But yeah, somehow it just all got together. And yeah, I made myself useful, but I also showed the organization how to grow and how to create some new ideas, new opportunities for them. So it worked really well.
Oh, it sounds like that is how you got your first remote job. As you said, like going back, you were back in the
Yes,
Netherlands, you
exactly.
set up the
Because
business. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And basically, then I didn't know it could be a remote job because I was working in Nepal and also a little bit from my laptop in the Netherlands. And then at one moment I thought, oh, but out of the tourist season, I don't need to be here. So in winter and summer, I can be somewhere else. And then I started Googling and I found Gran Canaria, Las Palmas, as a place where people could go, and it's summer and you're in Europe and you're close to the ocean. So I thought, let's go there. And that's the moment that I met the digital nomad community. I went to a co-working space and there was a really nice community there, and I joined in. And yeah, since then, I think I'm a digital nomad. Yeah.
It's really cool. So from the Canary Islands, just like Googling, you went there, and it's known, if people don't know, it is known for
Yeah.
having a good digital nomad community. And I think a lot of people escape there in the winter in Europe. And that's
Yep.
amazing. So you were making it up as you went, but also like you didn't expect when you were first at the NGO in Nepal that they would come to you and say, how can we start giving you a commission and a way to stay and keep this going? That's I having known you, Linda,
Yeah.
and for those watching, Linda is a very hard worker. I will say she takes a lot of initiative, and you always look at a situation and you think, how can I improve upon this? What else can I do to help this situation? And I think those are great traits to make somebody look at you and say, how can I keep you? What can I offer you to stay, even if it's remote?
Yeah, and I think, but it's really also thinking about the other person, because I always feel like I want to help people. I want to help people prosper in whatever they do. So yeah, just I remember like I met Becky again in Vietnam, and there was this homestay I was staying at, and I helped them setting up a cooking workshop because she said, oh, we can cook together and this and that. And I said, oh, then you can make it into a workshop. And I invited Becky, and before we knew it, we were doing this cooking workshop there. And then I made a flyer, and then I helped her out. And now she has a cooking workshop, basically. So yeah, that was just, I don't know. I always, especially people who I see, they are working hard and they are really trying. And then sometimes I feel it's not so difficult for me to just kind of put my energy in and help out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we're volunteering in these different countries, sometimes you've come across people, they're such hard workers, but maybe they don't culturally think the way that you do. But I know you're very entrepreneurial and you bring in this mindset, and you can just gently show people in this other country, here are some possibilities that would be very easy for you to implement. I mean, we know when we met at the cooking lesson, it was in her home. It was just a matter of her getting the right things together and taking us to the market. And she was great at it. And I think she's going to be quite successful, but it's just taking the mindset and just showing them something. And this happens all the time in volunteering.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's interesting how then, yeah, I mean, in some places it's just me giving, but yeah, a lot of time I'm also really learning, learning from it, and that's also really what I like as well. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I want to know a bit more about this, and then how do I get about it? And then I just Google, I try to find some places, I try to make contacts, and yeah, then it's possible to do some volunteering often.
Yeah, I'm curious because you have so much experience volunteering. When you have the daily schedule as a volunteer, is it up to you? Do you set the schedule? Do you tell them at the beginning, okay, I can only work from 8 to 4 p.m. and then I need my nights free? Or do they tell you, okay, you need to work from this time to this time? How does that work when in these different organizations? Like woofing, I know is so big around the world. I've
Oof.
never done it. So I'm not sure like how it really works. Do you pay up front? How do these different organizations operate?
Yes. So, for example, Woofing or Workaway, they have a pretty clear system, which means they're asking you to work like 4 or 5 hours a day, and then you get free food and accommodation. And the free food can either be you cook, or they cook for you, or there's just stuff in the fridge, or it doesn't really matter. It can yeah, but there's food available for you. And so that's a pretty simple system, right? Because and 4 hours might seem quite a lot, because maybe for some people, like, okay, if I would put that into money, that would actually be a lot. But then, yeah, if you really learn something new, or if you like what I did, if you're in a resort where you would normally pay €100 a night, and if you're able to snorkel the reef, and if you get free food and accommodation for that, well, yeah, then I would really like that. And I see sometimes also, even maybe here, I'm in Australia now, and I'm thinking to volunteer actually at a sustainable farm, at an ecological farm. So then you can learn all kind of things about permaculture, about how to live sustainably, about recycling. And yes, you might have to do some gardening, but then I try to see it as some sort of sports that I can just, yeah, instead of going to the gym, you're just being active. Um, yeah, and this workaway, yeah, that's kind of how it works. You just go to the website. You have to pay, I think, like €50 to become a member, to register, and then you can find all these different places around the world where you can volunteer. But yeah, I also volunteered in the Netherlands, one day a week, with refugees, and then you just go to the office, and for one day you're having chats with refugees, which then actually also led me to another volunteering role where I went to Lesbos, the island of Lesbos in Europe, for 2 months, to work at the refugee camp there. And that was, again, would get food and accommodation there. So
Wow, how was that
very different,
experience?
different types. Yeah, it was a very impressive, of course. It is also very, yeah, you really learn a lot, and you see a lot about what actually happens to refugees, and what are the policies from a European level, and what is actually being done to these refugees, and the actual situation there. It's a very sad thing that is happening there on Lesbos, and yeah, to see that, and to actually really meet the people, meet the refugees there, and talk with them and work with them. Yeah, I definitely learned a lot, and I think if I ever go back to the Netherlands and will want a more steady job there, I would want to work with refugees. And now I have the skills, so now I have, or at least some skills. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's
but
easy
I will
to
still
start.
stay at digital. I will
Yeah,
still stay a digital nomad for the next years to come, I think.
yes, I have to say it's a lifestyle that's hard to quit once you start. It gives you so much flexibility, but there's so many different ways you can do it, including volunteering and getting all these skills. Like you said, you can build up your skills, I think, as a volunteer easily if you just put yourself out there and say, hey, I'm here. Because how can someone say we don't need you if they're not even paying you, if you're there with your confidence and your excitement to help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
besides Woofing and Workaway, are there any other websites that you know of that you would recommend to people to go to if they want to start getting into the world of volunteering?
Yes, Moving Workaway. I think if you are still at home, if you're still maybe not a digital nomad, then I would definitely recommend Junior Chamber International. This is a local entrepreneurial network, and they volunteer often in local areas, but they are part of this huge international network with international events where you can meet other international people from all over the world. So it's called Junior Chamber International. Other websites, I think basically I think often people have something in mind, maybe like, okay, I want to volunteer maybe in this field or maybe in this field. And I think if you just Google maybe the country where you want to go and Google volunteer, and then there's actually a lot of things that you can find. There's also a lot of on LinkedIn. There's also quite often some volunteering through the co-working places. So you can always check in with the co-working place and see if you can do something for them or if they know any local organizations where you can be a part of. The other one is the EU Erasmus network. A lot of people know Erasmus from their student time, from student exchange or student when they would go and study for half a year in another country. But Erasmus has a lot of exchange programs where you can find really interesting volunteering or exchange programs. There's a program called Erasmus Entrepreneur, and you can go and visit and work with a company in another European country, and then the European Union pays you a local salary. So basically, for example, if you want to learn more about social media marketing, you can find an organization in another country than yours and work with them for half a year, and the European Union pays you. So the company gets a free employee and you get a salary. And you can learn something new.
Wow. Do you need to be an EU citizen to participate in that program?
Yes, yes, yes. There are some, I think, for example, Turkey is also part of it. So there are some countries that have agreements with the European Union. So there are possibilities, but not as many as within the European Union.
Okay. I was just checking as an American, and for all those Americans or non-EU people, because that sounds wonderful. But I think also if wherever you're from, like Linda said, Google something like that, maybe an entrepreneurial initiative, if that sounds interesting to you, and there's probably plenty of opportunities.
Yes, and even a website as Workaway, you can filter. I think the category is something like computer/IT skills. So you don't have to work doing gardening or cooking. And because then all the filter goes and all the places come out that ask assistance in IT or computer work, which can be very, very, different things.
I think if you start there as well, thinking maybe that it could lead to remote work later on, could be a good place to start.
Yeah, yeah.
So Linda, I have to
Yeah,
ask,
exactly, exactly.
I know you're currently working as a travel agent remotely. How did you find this job?
Yeah, so it just all seems. I think I do work for it, but sometimes it feels very like a coincidence. But I found this company on LinkedIn, and they had a vacancy. But at that moment, I couldn't. I had another job, so I couldn't work with them. And this company is a 4x4 self-drive company that rents out cars, including rooftop tents and camping equipment. So in a couple countries, in Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, and Oman, and soon Kenya, you can go there and rent a 4x4 car with all the rooftop tents and equipment and then drive around in the country. So it's really adventure company. And I saw them on LinkedIn and I thought, wow, this is such a cool adventurous company. I'm really interested in this business. And I sent a message to the owner. I said, look, I don't have right now, I already have a job, but your company just looks so interesting. Maybe I can do something for you in the future. And I was planning a road trip. So me and my husband, we went on a road trip and we were passing through Georgia. So I sent a message to this guy again. And he said, oh, I'm there as well. And right now, and I'm very busy. I'm unpacking all these equipment for the 4x4 cars. It would be good to meet. And I said, well, we're here, we're on a holiday. We can come and, help you out. And so we went there, and for one whole day, we were like unpacking all this stuff in a container, rooftop tents, camping equipment, putting everything out, sweating, but at the same time, meeting the owner of this company and talking about his business, helping him. He was explaining everything. And then he said, well, you two are so nice. Come join me on, we put a rooftop on your car because we were on this road trip. We put a roof tent on your car and just join me for 3 days. And we go like around Georgia. So we went, traveled together. And by that time, I already told him, hey, I'm looking for a job. And he said, well, you can be the Georgia adventure specialist then. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So, and then he gave us the rooftop tent for another 2 weeks. We traveled around, rooftop tent on top. We made all kinds of videos. That was for free. So that was the volunteering, basically. We made videos. We did like all kinds of pictures. Yeah, just exploring the country at the same time, giving him the pictures for social media. And yeah, after that, 1 month after that, I got a remote job, and now I'm a travel agent. Yeah, for his company. Yeah.
Linda, this is like the coolest interview story ever. It's like from LinkedIn to volunteering. You show up at the guy's house, basically where he's hanging out, and you spend a
Yeah.
day working alongside him for free. Then you go on the road trip. This is amazing, and this is like such a great
Yeah.
example of how you can make this work
Yeah.
and get this remote job. It doesn't have to be solely through LinkedIn. It can be through your sheer
Yeah.
initiative, which I think is how it worked.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, yeah, some people would say, oh, you're so lucky or something. But I did, I am trying for it. I'm trying to find a way how to get there. Yeah. So, I mean, I also, for example, I also did a volunteering in Lesbos, right, with the refugees. And I was hoping maybe something would pop out of that. But yeah, it stayed with that volunteering. So that's okay too. Because I know that maybe in the future it can land me a job, but for now nothing really happened. So it's not like that happens all the time. But it does happen a lot, actually, if you just try and aim for it and try and, yeah, yeah.
It's all building experience and you never know where it's going to lead.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, my CV is pretty crazy right now. I think if I add everything, people will be like, "What?" Just so many different things. But yeah, that's what I like. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you can just say I'm a very curious person who's able to be flexible and jump into anything and be successful.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, sometimes tiring myself out as well. Just trying to do everything, but no, I really love it, and I think every time it's like a new adventure, you know.
I can imagine. I do want to ask you, why should people volunteer? What has it given you in your life?
Uh, well, yeah, as I said, it's given me new friendships, new perspectives, also, you know, politically, also culturally, uh, new skills, of course. Yeah, sometimes I'm looking forward to learn about permaculture. So yeah, I feel like with every little bit of volunteering, I do something new, and I learned. I'll give you one more example that we got kittens during COVID. We got from the local animal shelter. We got 3 nests of kittens in different times, and I learned everything about taking care of kittens. Yeah, which is just really cute. But yeah, it's just a new skill then suddenly that I'm like, okay, yeah, what did you do during COVID? Well, yeah, I learned about kittens. So yeah, everything can give you a new skill, and you can learn new things, and then from that there on you can maybe move into a whole new different field, new direction.
Yeah, you never know. And I was laughing there, Linda, because I remember when we met in 2019, you were taking care of puppies at the co-working space.
Yeah.
You started with puppies. I'm
Yes,
glad to hear you
that's the
moved on
animal
to
lover in
kittens.
me.
That's lovely. It's a whole side of
Yeah, exactly.
volunteering.
Maybe soon I here in Australia soon I will move on to koalas, I'm sure.
Yes, the world of volunteering with animals is a whole other part of it. And if you're an animal lover, there's endless opportunities.
Mm, definitely. Yeah, yes.
Well, do you have anything else that you would like to share with us today, Linda, before we go? Where can people follow you, for example, if they'd like to learn more?
um yes. They can follow me on Instagram. Adventure Linda is my Instagram name. So you can find me there. The one thing I want to say about volunteering is if you are thinking about volunteering with children or volunteering in orphanages, I would say don't do it, because this is a different area of volunteering that's actually not a good area. It's not a ethical area. There's a reason why orphanages do not exist anymore in Western countries. And a lot of orphanages abroad are there being, yeah, mainly meant for the tourists, and it's not helping the children. So if you want to read more, just look up Stop Orphan Tourism, and then you can read a lot more about why this is not a good idea. Yeah, so I think, and there is volunteering available also where you have to pay for, which is not particularly bad. I mean, you know, some organizations ask funding, for example, for their local animal shelter, but do look at where the money is going. Do check if the organization is transparent about this. So yeah,
Do you
I
have
think that's a
advice?
small disclaimer about volunteering.
Do you have advice for how we can check where the money is going or if it's really a good organization to send money to before we volunteer?
um, so, so basically, I think it's all about their websites. Just check if they have a financial report, if they show like if you pay this, then the money goes to here, goes to there, goes to there, goes to there. Yeah, just and ask questions, see how they respond, and see also you can go partly with your gut feeling as well. Sometimes, you know, if you just ask a few questions and if you don't get, you know, a sufficient answer, then you already also know kind of that it might not be a good idea. Yeah. And people can always contact me as well, because I now have some experience and I can just help as well, maybe with some, just send me a message and I will give some advice or yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Linda. So please ask her any questions at Adventure Linda
On a
on
voluntary
Instagram.
base.
Yes, only if you have a question you just can't find the answer to. But thank you so much for all of this knowledge about volunteering. I think that it can really change someone's life if they see this and then they decide to get into the whole volunteering world. So yeah, I know it's changed your life, and every time I've volunteered, I always come away with something that helps me in my own life. So hopefully it'll be the same for everybody watching.
Exactly.
Thank you
Exactly. I hope
again.
so too. So yeah, wish everyone luck with their volunteering adventure.
Yes, thank you so much, Linda. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day. Bye.